PGM industry has not been easy to navigate, but it's not all bad news for the sector. To explore the potential the industry has to offer, given the current market dynamics, we are joined by Kirthanya. Kirthanya, thank you so much for your time. I mean, you look at what we're seeing when it comes to EV sales, this current dip. Is it just about the demand for PGMs? Is it affecting that demand, or is demand being affected by other aspects?
Thanks, Natasha. And I think we've definitely seen a slowdown in the BEV market after many years of growth. It from year on year of over 30% coming down to 14%. And we do think that recent legislation changes and emerging views on consumer sentiment is going to affect BEV demand going forward. Interestingly, what we have seen, though, is an increase in demand for plug-in hybrids and full hybrids of over 40% in the case of plug-in hybrids. So we definitely have seen the benefits of a slowdown in BEVs on PGM demand. We also think going forward, it's likely to be far more positive, given that the BEV story is likely to still continue, but albeit at a slower pace, and probably with competing technologies alongside the BEVs only. So whereas a few years ago it was really all about BEVs, we really do think that the hybrids and as well as the internal combustion engine will have a longer tail, will exist alongside BEVs, to give consumers more choice, but to also navigate the challenges of rolling out BEVs to the extent that we expected from actually mining those metals that are not easily mineable and will take time to develop.
Are there strategies that the PGM industry can adopt to diversify beyond the automotive sector, especially at a time when we're talking about the ongoing energy transition, but we're also talking about this fluctuating demand for EVs?
I think yes, but I think even at the outset, within the automobile industry, PGMs have always had a role to play in decarbonization. And I think that is probably becoming more prevalent and more well known by the industry players. To my earlier point around hybrids and the use of palladium and rhodium in those vehicles, as well as in the internal combustion engine, which is, we don't think, completely dead. But I think beyond just the auto sector, there's definitely a lot that can be done to develop and extend demand for PGMs. It is a very important set of metals for the hydrogen economy, and that's across the value chain of the hydrogen economy, all the way from actual production and transport to storage, as well as the fuel cell industry. So linked to the auto sector, but with a very different type of technology being developed. Beyond that, PGMs has been used in the medical industry and in advancing of fuels, of synthetic fuels for a long time. And I think that is another source of demand and an additional focus that will stimulate further demand for the metal going forward. We do think palladium and rhodium will be supported by this ongoing increased interest and investment in hybrids, and platinum definitely with the hydrogen economy in the fullness of time.
You mentioned fuel cell technology. I'm wondering how important is it for the industry to invest in fuel cell technology, but as well as hydrogen? And perhaps we can also talk about the progress being made so far in that area when it comes to Impala Platinum.
Yes, no, we think it is a very important area to invest in, both hydrogen and fuel cells. It's something we've actually spent a lot of time as a company on, and we've done it in a couple of ways over the last few years. When we completed the acquisition of Royal Bafokeng Platinum about 2 years ago now, one of the commitments that we made to the Department of Trade and Industry, given the importance of beneficiation to the country, is to create a fund to invest alongside the Industrial Development Corporation in emerging technologies or companies linked to the hydrogen sector, so to incubate small companies that want to grow in the sector, because that is going to directly stimulate PGM demand. It's in addition to that, we made an investment in the AP Ventures Fund 2 a few years ago now, which is a fund of a number of industry players, not just locally but globally, that invest in new and emerging technologies across the hydrogen and fuel cell value chains, not just direct in investments, not just directly linked to PGMs, but also in associated or adjacent technologies. And there's some very exciting projects coming out of that. Projects that span the globe, that invest in anything from ammonia to sustainable fuels, and we've seen some great returns, but we've seen a renewed interest or increased interest in the sector with some of these technologies that are being commercialized and are actually going from what was nascent technology a few years ago to something that is more commercial and mainstream. And what we do like about AP Ventures as well is a lot of those technologies around the world are also being deployed into the South African market for relevance in our country. So things like water technology or refueling options for trucks or heavy duty vehicles. These are all technologies that in the fullness of time we think can make a difference to PGM demand, but also be rolled out in South Africa for our beneficiation strategy.
When you think about the idea of future-proofing the African mining industry, what does that look like for you?
I think it has to be about creating a sustainable and better future for all of the stakeholders in order for us to be relevant and also be around in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Implats as a company has been around since the 60s. And our slogan is actually creating a better future for all our stakeholders. And that extends to not just our communities and our direct employees, but the 150,000 people plus that we indirectly support in all of our labor sending areas. And I think we have to be cognizant that we do not have an industry or a future if we do not take care of all of our stakeholders and make them part of the discussion and part of the story to really have real and meaningful participation and ownership in our companies and in our growth story. And I think that will also play a role in making people aware of how important mining is. I think we sometimes forget that in this digital age and the way technology is moving, at the heart of everything is the commodities that we mine. And the youth and the people that use cell phones or TVs but don't really understand what goes into it need to be reminded how important mining is, not just for the sustainability of the industry, but so that we can always attract new and exciting talent to the industry, make it relevant, so that they don't only want to join a Google or an NVIDIA, they want to come to an Impala Platinum and our peers.
From the conversations you're having internally, do you find that young people are actually interested in coming to Impala Platinum and participating in this industry that is very exciting? As you mentioned, it's in some way or the other connected to the technologies that the young people are interested in.
I think it is getting better. I think we are getting better at marketing and speaking to the youngsters. We do a lot in outreach into high schools or universities from a bursary point of view. I know my colleagues in the sector do the same. I spoke at a Woman in Mining event earlier today, and it was fantastic to see a full room, whereas 10 years ago I would not have seen that at Mining Indaba. So I think the message is definitely getting out there. It is still, there's some way to go in terms of greenifying or cleaning up the image of mining. Yeah. And I think it's important message to get across, but there is definitely renewed interest and excitement for some of the aligned mining careers. Mm-hmm. And one thing I mentioned earlier today was people or young people need to also be aware that it's not just the pure mining roles at the coalface. There's finance, there's legal, there's all ancillary industries that are all related. It's such a huge part of our economy and the world. And I think we've been doing a great job, and we can continue to do that to develop it further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.